Retired Naval Captain Chuck Nash joins us. Captain, I guess Teddy Roosevelt said it, speak softly and carry a big stick. Do you think that the deployment of the Abraham Lincoln Carrier battle group to the Persian Gulf and the talk of, 120,000 American troops, that was enough to scare Tehran to back down?
Eric, I think that the Iranians realized that if they were to go into a conflict with the United States, that they would lose, and it would be a decisive loss. The mullahs are trying to keep power, and as we strengthen the sanctions, as we put pressure on the regime, things inside of Iran are getting worse by the day. They've got rampant inflation. There are demonstrations in the streets that we don't really hear about that much, but they're going on. There's a lot of distrust of the regime, and the people would like to have a different form of government. So they're trying to balance their domestic problems with what they perceive to be, and rightly perceive to be, an increasing military situation that's bordering around them.
You know, they've had those little speedboats that have been basically like gnats, like annoying mosquitoes that just swarm around some of our battleships, and having been in the Navy. Right. And apparently satellite photos showed them transferring some missiles onto some boats, and then after this happened, the new photos show they're pulling them back. Do you think that was a legitimate concern, or it was hyped?
No, I think the thing is, and something that the viewers need to know, is that there are two navies in Iran. There are two armies in Iran. One of them is the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC, their forces, and the other one are what we'll call the straight leg, or the forces that are under the control, the military control, not control of the mullahs. The IRGC is under the control of the mullahs. They are the ones that have the small boat, do the small boat swarms that you're talking about. And I think what's happened is that the IRGC leadership, Salami, who the reporter just talked about, what he's saying is, we don't want war. Well, he's going to make sure that there's not some hair trigger hothead out there, so they are disarming some of their small boats, so that when they do go out and swarm, they've sent the signal, look, we're not armed up. And by the same token, they're not giving any of the knuckleheads driving those boats the ability to start something. Yeah,
some people have warned and criticized the possibility of a hair trigger someplace, of having a mistake. Meanwhile, National Security Advisor John Bolton, he's been a longtime critic of Tehran. He supported the opposition group, the National Council of Resistance of Iran. And before he was appointed National Security Advisor, I want you to listen to some words that he said 2 years ago during a resistance rally right outside the United Nations when Hassan Rouhani, Iranian president, was speaking.
Ultimately, the safest way to guarantee peace internationally, peace in the Middle East, peace for the people of Iran, is to overthrow this regime and have a free and fair election.
Regime change in Iran.
Is that possible?
Well, the NCRI is the only democratic option that exists to the mullahs today. So if you were to look at what Secretary Bolton or Ambassador Bolton, now National Security Advisor Bolton, is saying, is that it is virtually impossible for the mullahs to change the way they operate. They can't do it. So, therefore, they're going to continue down the road to getting nuclear weapons. And some people believe that the Iranians may already have a couple of nukes. What they don't have is the ability to deliver them at range with a high-speed missile because of re-entry issues and some technical things. But, this is really getting to the point where the Arabs now are getting concerned enough that King Salman of Saudi Arabia is calling a meeting of all the Arab heads of state for the 30th of this month in Mecca. And I think they're going to sit down and one of those, okay, guys, we're either in this together, whoever said we'll hang together or we'll hang separately. This is a point where the Arab world is going to have to come together and put up a firm bulwark against the Iranian regime.
And how does the Arab world do that with the rest of the free world? Let me play you David Petraeus, the former general, this morning on ABC, talking about the impact of sanctions. You mentioned their economy in free fall, protests throughout cities that we really don't hear about. Here's what General Petraeus said this morning.
Either they are going to have to really tighten their belt and keep tightening because it's going to get worse. and try to grit their teeth and get to November 2020 in hopes that their desired outcome emerges, and then they survive till January 2021. I'm not sure they can go that far without having to at least pursue some back channel that could then lead into some kind of negotiation.
Former head of the CIA saying maybe some type of negotiation. President says, you know, they got their number at the White House. The phone is sitting there ready to be rung.
And that goes back to my last point, Eric, where the mullahs, it's impossible for them to change the way they operate, because if they do, they lose power. And what happens is regimes, whether it's the Soviet Union, the old Soviet Union, or the current theocracy in Iran, they won't start loosening up until it's too late. And when they do, they know it's all going to fly apart. The wheels are going to come off. So what they're trying to do is hold out, hope against hope. And if President Trump is reelected, then they're really going to have to figure out what they're going to do. But in the meantime, they're going to make life so much worse on the Iranian citizens that the wheels will come off.
We've seen people before rise up against the theocratic dictatorships. We'll see what happens in Iran. One would hope that it would be peaceful, as we have seen in other empires that have crashed. Captain Chuck Nash, good to see you. Thank you so much.
My pleasure, Eric.
As always.